Hello, I'm Full Paragon, and this is your guide to Dark Wizard EX Arena. The Dark Wizard is another defense-focused arena, which means that he will target the first adventurer on your team. He deals primarily normal magic damage, and he has haze attacks. He cannot be debuffed, which means you can't lower his defense or use agility down attacks. He can, however, be poisoned. This could be another EX arena where, even though they say it's a defense arena, most of your score is going to come from damage, as this is not a character-focused arena, which means you can bring pretty much whatever you want, and a large portion of your score will come from how much damage you're dealing to the boss. First up, we have a darkness-based team featuring Christmas Darkness. Since this arena's score is heavily influenced by how little damage your team takes, and Christmas Darkness is by far the best anti-magic tank that we have, I think she would be a great addition to a team. She provides strong boost to mages, which means the rest of your team is primarily going to deal magic damage. I suggest using Halloween Union, as the fact that she has a poison attack and this boss is weak to poison could heavily influence your score. Snow Aru is another good choice. She has a decent self buff that will increase her magic damage, which means that you can buff Union with Darkness and deal quite a bit of damage. Should Darkness fall, Christmas Wiz can go ahead and come in. Christmas Wiz won't be able to reduce the amount of damage that she takes, but she's very good at surviving and absorbing damage and will be pretty good in this arena. Make sure that you're running the first ult for Aru and Christmas Wiz, even though often you will run their second ult in regular arena. Here, because the boss is immune to debuffs, you'll get a lot more out of using their first ult. In the last slot, I have El Silo. She can come in for some last moment healing, agility buffs, and a little bit of burst damage. Most of these characters can be swapped out for other versions of themselves, although by far the key to this team is Christmas Darkness. If you don't have her, well, you might soon get an opportunity to reacquire her, as I have heard that there could be a Christmas Banner rerun coming next week. Theoretically, this boss is weak to physical damage, so a physically based team might have some merit to it. These are my suggestions for characters. I'd start with Lia. If you're going to run her in the first slot, don't run Kempo Lia, as her HP conditional won't turn on. I'd instead run Axel Hart's Lia if you have her, as she has a strong physical attack buff, and when her damage cut activates, she does a pretty great job at absorbing hits. I'd also run some Mitsurugi, as he also tends to be tanky, and that means that he'll take less damage. Both Lia and Mitsurugi would need to be max trialed for this team to really work, as without their personal weapons, they'll be much less effective. Run the second version of their ults on both of them. I'd also run an Aqua. I would suggest that you use New Year's Aqua. She doesn't deal very much damage, but she has a lot of utility. Will do a good job at both keeping your team alive and at keeping up Lia's ever-important ult. Make sure you're running the Gauge Up sub on Lia to have more damage cut uptime. If you don't have a good Lia, I would suggest using Original Mia actually. Her first ability will allow her to greatly reduce the amount of magic damage she takes, and she can be a quick and dirty option. In the last slot, I'd run some sort of Iris for a lot of last-minute burst. On the screen, you see Ballroom Iris. She will be released shortly, and she's by far the best Iris thanks to having a personal agility up. But any Iris will work in the last slot, except for Valentine's Iris, as she's heavily reliant on debuffs for her damage, and this boss is immune. As for welfare options, there's some pretty decent ones for this arena. The Darkness that we just got with this latest event is actually a really good option for reducing incoming magic damage thanks to her abilities that have magic damage cut as a trait and a high tier 3 magic defense buff for herself, allowing her to tank hits from the boss. Next up, I would go ahead and run some sort of Union. She just deals the most damage. I put Princess Union on here because she's a personal favorite of mine, but realistically, any 4-star would work quite well, although keep in mind, Academy Union won't be able to use her defense down on the boss, though she still deals a large amount of damage. Next up, I'd use a healer of some variety. Silo would be your best bet, particularly El Silo, although Amy and even Cecily would work, although again remember, the boss is immune to debuffs, so don't use Cecily's first ult. Next, I'd use either Aru or Rid. They'll probably come in for Darkness, so here you're just gunning for getting as much damage as you possibly can out of them, although in the best scenario, Darkness will stay alive and keep your fragile mages safe. I would run Rin of any variety here. I put the Welfare Rin just because it's fairly easy for most players to get access to her, although remember the boss will be immune to her agility and magic defense down debuff, so they won't do you any good. That's the video, thanks for watching. As I mentioned, we have some exciting banners coming up, and I'm looking forward to releasing the guides to those to guide players through the next part of Konosuba Fantastic Days.